Hello, everyone. So today we are doing another user onboarding teardown, and we are so excited to go through Piktochart and really just rip apart the onboarding experience. We're going to go through what they did really well, what are some things they could improve, and really how quickly they deliver on the value proposition. So we're going to dive in right here and just start off with going through the first part of the website and really what they're promising to their users. So what we have here is really just showing us all the cool things you can make, whether it's presentations, infographics, prints. And so it's just saying it's easy to use. Okay, so we'll get to see in a minute how easy it is to actually use it. But I really like the idea of just showing there's endless possibilities. I really feel like there's a lot of things I can do here. And compared to some of the other onboarding teardowns we've done, I'm referring to last week, it's actually really straightforward to see, even just with this one sentence, what they've done. And so I guess before we even go through any of the other parts of the homepage, is there any pieces you wanted to point out, Azar?
I just like the easy to use tool in there. They are really differentiating themselves. It's easy to use. Do you actually like this changing of the design maker and print maker, infographic maker in general? That's my question for you. But just finishing my thought, I like the fact that they're comparing themselves with the designer fees, saying that, hey, we are the alternative of designer fees, and why not? Like, their competition is not a software. The competition is actually the typical designer. So I get the tool immediately, and I know what's the alternative. So I'm very curious to sign up.
Yeah, and like one other thing from like a standard conversion rate optimization perspective is just like the colors. This is a small thing, but whenever you're using an action color, whenever it's not used well, it draws attention to something else. So right now it's like the action color is this purpley red. Maybe it's purple, or I'm colorblind.
So that's from you, colorblind.
So this big section down here, it just really catches my attention, and it doesn't provide any value. So what I would actually recommend on just this above the fold section is just take this part out and actually just draw more attention to where you want people to go, which in this case is start for free. So that's the overall homepage overview. And so just to give you a little bit of context, what we're doing before we go into the product is we're really just trying to see, do they have a straight line onboarding experience? So we are looking for, like, what are the absolute minimum number of steps it will take us to experience the easy to use presentation maker or print maker, and to see if they can deliver on that value prop. So we're just going to dive in right here, and I'm going to fill in the info. But while I'm doing that, Azar, you take it away. Let me know what you think of this page.
Okay, so I usually recommend people to have some kind of a social proof there while on their sign up page, because there's a lot of drop off there. I like that they have a lot of brands who are using them, really popular brands. They're also showing some kind of Piktochart created, registers, users, and beautiful templates out there, and also a testimonial there, which kind of just confirms my belief that, okay, I'm signing it up to a really good tool. I do recommend this to people. And I do suggest that people should use this. And on top of this sign up, they say a one-step sign up, and so which means that after this I don't have to go through something else, which making my friction, like, there's no friction in there, which means that I'm much more likely to sign up there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in terms of the social proof, they did a good job. However, this section does feel a little bit confusing. I feel like they're trying to throw too many stats at me all at once. And like capitalization here, it's like Y and E is capitalized, Scotland. I'm like, is that the name of his company or something else? So it just feels a little jumbled. So I'd probably recommend, like, in this case, less is more. Just like pick a couple things and then forget about the rest, because it's not really adding too much value here. One thing here that's a little unique for this kind of product, and I'm not going to dock points off because I imagine they have quite a few people who are younger who are using this. And according to a lot of countries' rules, you can't market to them. And so I like that they're calling it out right at the beginning here so they can at least stay safe legal wise, which is always good.
Yeah,
and so in terms of the overall steps here, they're really keeping it to minimum. There's just that name, email, password. Essentially, that's all you really need to do. And so the copy here is really just saying, okay, after you sign up, you're going to get instant access. So it's getting me excited, and I'm just going to click create account. And yes, I hope I'm over 60. There we go. Oh dear. Oh dear. So, lecture. Steps like this kill your conversion rate. I would be surprised if Piktochart didn't lose anywhere from 10 to as much as 30% of first-time users because of this one step. Now, with that being said, they do make it fairly easy for us to resend it if we need to. And so I'm just going to stop the share, go into my email and verify this since it's not an incognito and I don't want to go through another password with you. But while I'm going through this, do you just want to mention why this step is a big deal, Azar?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, you lose a lot of users because we have shared it again and again in others as well, but other onboarding teardowns. But the one thing is that it may go to spam folder. The user might never see it. The user clicks on it and never goes to the actual point. A lot of users are out there, and there are a lot of steps in there. So like there's a step that just changes my entire screen, and I have to go to the other screen and then click on it and then come back. Or maybe that screen I have to use, which again disrupts my experience, and I would not like to do it. And the best part is they are a consumer app. They are not a B2B app, right? So they're letting everybody in, which means that anybody can jump in. So I would not recommend. I mean, imagine if something like Facebook or Twitter would do that. They would never do that. And they can always let the user confirm the email later on, and you should just take your product and give it right in front of the user so they can just go ahead and start playing around with it. And that's what we believe at User Pilot. So when somebody asks for URL, we directly give them sign up link, and so they can log in and start creating the experience for us. So that's what I would recommend as well for Piktochart.
Absolutely. I'm the same with that. And so I think for any companies that do require that step, just look at your product analytics, see how many people you're actually losing, because it will actually shock you most times. There's very few companies that I have not seen have at least 10 to 20% of those people just drop off immediately. So we have signed in, verified the email. That alone takes about 3 steps because you got to go to your email, click the email, then go into clicking the confirmation step. And in this case, I just put it like a bogus password, which is not the case for everyone, but I had to actually go and say I forgot my password and then go through the steps. So thanks for covering on that one, Azar. And so I'm just going to go through what I do. And this is interesting. And so one thing we've seen in the past is just how you can kind of tie your onboarding experience to the questions you're asking here. And so I'm not sure if they're actually going to use this info to personalize the product for me, but if they did, that's what I'm looking for, because if not, this is just a useless step. And organization size, this is probably for their lead qualification. And so that makes sense in some cases to have it there. And this is interesting. I don't usually see this from a government or nonprofit organization, but I'm curious as to why they have it. So I'm a government. So any thoughts on this, Azar?
Yeah, so the one thing they already are claiming in this copy that we are giving templates that made for you, and that's why you should give your details. So I think they would show you similar. I hope so. And one thing right under it, there's a thing called tips, which says you can always change this to your account setting later on, which again tells me that, like I don't have to worry about it too much, which is again reducing the friction. You see the need help button. So if I am stuck there, I can always ask. But I think one thing they could always do better on the left side, it's a really big part of the screen, which just shows me different illustrations. I would rather have the software there, something which motivates me to say, hey, this is how the software would look like. to
Yeah.
just give me more ideas on it, how, or this is how the infographic, click here, something like this, something which much more visual from the software side. So I would definitely do that.
Yeah, and I love this part up here, which is just saying like, do you want actually useful stuff? Because we're asking this information. And so what I imagine is they're really going to personalize this experience for librarians, which should be really interesting to see in my inbox later on. And so I like this step if they are going to use it. And you are right. In terms of the kind of conversational bumper, you can always use these to really help people along. And so if you are at this stage and you're having a problem, it's really great to at least have something, even if it's not intrusive, which in this case, I actually like that it's there if I need it, but it's not like calling out like, hey, Wes, like let's jump on a chat here and being that intrusive. So I like it so far. Next step is pick as many topics. Okay, now there's the the
Yeah.
intrusive chat. Okay.
There's so many people out there, right, directly sending messages there. This is so horrible. I would remove it.
Yeah, I'd rip these out. These it's just like, well, okay, before this is funny about that. I just made a comment on how it was good. And then I see like these two random chats. So it's just too much. Like I would just cut these out completely because it's more intrusive and gets away from actually getting into the product. And so go ahead, pick as many topics as you want is the next step. So this feels completely useless to me. If I am being honest, I don't know, like if I want the insider inspiration, essential tips, and product news. Like if I was signing up, I just want to, I have a goal. Let's say it's presentation. I want to create a presentation. This doesn't actually get me closer to that. So what are your thoughts, Azar? Is this a bust or a good step?
So again, take them directly to the product. That's what I would recommend. Take them to the. You've already asked who they are. That's all you need. What they're looking for is later on. You can. I mean, if at max you want to ask is, hey, what kind of infographic? What kind of first thing you want to make? Is it an infographic? Is it a picture? Is it a presentation? That would be more useful rather than having these. I think what here they are asking is, hey, how we can send you different messages which will help you. But again, not necessarily in the sign up flow. You can always ask them later on. I know one of the tools called Href, they already asked, but it's very tiny inside. You can click on it if you want to receive updates. But one entire screen for that, I think, is a lot. Again, on the left, they haven't done much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would still recommend like do something which motivates me to finish the sign up, not think about, hey, how would I get the message first?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So my call, remove this step. It doesn't really help. The user becomes successful, and so submit. Now we're finally getting somewhere. We're in the product, and one thing I love already is they're using this space, which in onboarding terms we call an empty state. And so what I really like about this is, what do? I know exactly what I need to do. And so they're saying, you know, it's good to start fresh. Let's create something new. So it
Wait.
just, yeah,
Well, they did not show you the librarian stuff.
that's true. Not yet.
Let's try.
Yeah, but I think overall it's just so nice to see something simple. I clearly know what I need to do. And now I can see, oh, wow, like there's a lot of things I can create. The copy itself is really great micro copy. It's getting me excited about, oh, there's so many possibilities today. And what should I do? And so I mentioned earlier I want to do a presentation. And so I'm here. There's tons of options. I really like some of these options too. I'm trying to think of which one's my favorite. I always like this font. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to click this one and see how easy it is to actually create the presentation and see if this tool is easy to use. So I'm in the tool. There's some things here that I can definitely see in terms of some different options, but basically the presentation overall format is pretty well laid out. However, if I'm actually going to be editing stuff and making it my own, there are some things here that I might not have actually wanted this entire template. I might have just want to start off with this slide and then pick from the other options, where do I want them to fit into the presentation. So here there's actually a lot of extra work I need to do, Where I know with a similar tool like Canva, what you'll typically see is the template option on the left-hand panel, and I get to select like, I want, let's say page 2, this page, and then I can select it, customize it, and then I want page, maybe it's this one, 3, and then select it and customize it. So instead of having to go in, delete all these, I think there's definitely ways we could actually make this a lot easier. But what are your thoughts, Cesar?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to mention again, that they did not show the librarian personalization they did ask for, so they did not come up with the expectations. So I think they should definitely work on that. And you're right about the templates. What I'm still missing is that I like the fact that they are actually letting me decide how I want to play with it. There's no pop-up tooltips that's disrupting my experience. I've chosen presentation, but I think like it looks basic. There's nothing amazingly great about it, but it just lets me do whatever I want. And what I really like is just that it lets me choose what I want to do. So which is nice. And let's see how it goes forward.
Yeah, and I think in terms of also, if we're looking at the overall framework for onboarding, whenever it comes to in-app guidance, they could have done a little bit better of a job of just educating me about like, how can I actually use this product a little bit better? Maybe just for that first time user, like there's some interesting things here where whenever I hovered over them, I like that it's saying like, okay, add block, but I'm like, well, what does that actually do? And so there's a little bit of education gap here that I would love some extra help with for that first time user. And so that would be something I'd recommend, which is not intrusive, but it was just helping people learn more about your product so they can better use it and cut that time to value in half whenever it comes to completing this. So let's say I'm just done this presentation. I can just download it. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. I can't do PDF, which is interesting why that's blocked as a feature. So I can only do PNG. Now, if I was actually going to use this, I'd want a PDF. And so I know why they're actually blocking that, because I'm sure that gets a lot of people to upgrade. But it also begs the question of, well, is that going to prevent someone from seeing value in the product or not? In my case, that would be a deal breaker. And so I would be looking at, oh, I can use other tools like Canva. And there's just like, whenever there's a freemium product that offers so much for free, they're creating a moat for their business because they offer a lot more for free. And so in this case, this just looks like, well, I know another product that can do that. Sorry, I'm out. And so that's something I would think about in terms of the competitive landscape, and what you offer for free is really important, especially when there's disruptive products that will give away so much. But what are your thoughts on this?
So could you just do me a favor? Can you download as a PNG first? Just download it for the sake of it. I want to see if there's a success factor in there or not. Successfully saved visuals. Still taking time. I think they can use some tooltips when the downloading is so long. Like something like, not tooltips, I would say some tips that they can give me. Okay, now it's downloaded. Say go back. Yeah, so there's no success factor. So I did my first thing in the app. There was no success factor. There's a tour on the left side. If you see this, you just go back. There's a tour on the left side, extreme at the corner. You see that?
The tour?
Tour, yeah, here. I don't know what this looks like. So,
okay.
So they have some tour, but I think this tour should have popped up right after I came in, and they could show me how this looks like. And I think they can do a really good job on the tour right now. I don't think it's as nice as it should be. I don't get it's like add icon text wherever you want to do. So they're letting the user choose the journey again, like not being intrusive at all there, but also not guiding there at all. So I think they can do a really good job in there by letting the user click on the tour if they want. So I know that Webflow does that really well by showing the tour and then say, hey, we are on the bottom. If you want to look at it again, you can always look at it. No success completion, no next steps after what you've done, created it, saved it. So I think this is what I would recommend. And yeah, I mean, the app could really tell me what to do next now, which it doesn't do that. Yeah, that's all from my side. I I think the app could really, as you said, in-app guidance could be really used well, like an user tool like User Pilot there, and make things more interesting for the user, at least for the first time.
Awesome. And so just to recap, whenever we come to just the overall framework, so when it came to delivering on the value proposition that we saw on the homepage, it was we are an easy to use, whether it's presentation tool, print tool. And so there was so many different possibilities. And so in terms of the ease of use, whenever I did get into the product, it was fairly straightforward to use it. However, there were some steps in the way of actually experiencing the value of the product. And so whenever it came to just some of the options I had, well, there was asking me like, okay, what is your job role? It's like, are you going to use that information? If not, cut it. The next part was really just understanding. Do you remember that step? What it was? The one after librarians.
Insider tips, product news,
yes,
inspiration, something like that.
Yeah, and so for the Piktochart marketing team, I would just look at like, what are the tracks that perform the best? Use that one and just take that step out for people to really just dive right into the product earlier on. And also on that very step, there was a bunch of conversational bumpers just in the way, and they're actually detracting from me selecting which of those kind of email tracks I want to be on. And that just kind of turned me off a little bit more from getting on. However, whenever I was on the dashboard for the very first time, I loved it. There was that empty state. You use this real estate so well. And it was very clear to me, I need to create that new design. And whenever I did click it, there was a very simple pop-up that just showed me like, what do you want to create today? The copy was on point. It was so easy to really dive in and pick a tool that I wanted to use. However, whenever I did go into the overall presentation, I thought the layout and how I could create the presentation could have been done a lot better. And also there was very little education around how to actually use this. And maybe there is a way where I could have just picked one of these slides, added another somewhere. Whereas now if I have to create a presentation, I'm also going to be deleting a bunch of stuff I just don't want, because the template's huge and it's a little bit trickier to use. And then what you were mentioning, Azar, just about the success state. That's really important, because if you're tracking that in terms of like a product qualified lead, that is what you would be looking for, is how many people, when they first come in, are actually downloading and seeing success in the product. And so that's what I would be really curious about, is how can we get more people to get to this point and actually see value in it. It also does feel a little bit mean in some cases, whenever you get to the step and you're like, I'm so close. I put in all this work and then I can't use the format I want. That to me, especially for a first time, just rubs me the wrong way. And so maybe there was another way we could kind of work around this free option. And maybe it's, one PDF download per month. I don't know what that is based on your metrics, but I would kind of encourage you to make sure that whenever people do put in the work and get to that point, we want this first experience to have them saying to themselves, wow, that was incredible, so easy to use, and I want to do this again. Because if not, it's going to be so much harder to get them to that point where they say, I need to use Piktochart again. And that's what we want them to do. It's not necessarily that first time use where we want to say, okay, pull out your credit card now. Thank you. No, we just want them to really enjoy the product, get a ton of value out of it, and have a really good reason to come back. So that's my overall overview of Piktochart, and leave it with you, Azar.
Yeah. So the one advice there would be to, it's a freemium tool. Give everything for free for the first time, 5 times you're giving it away. Give it for free so that people find value. That's way you create a goodwill anyway, right? So you will be the one, okay, maybe the customer did not become a paid customer, a paid user, but at least that user found the value out of your tool, the time he invested in it. And so make it a value metric, which is, okay, you can do 5 things. If you want more, then you pay for it. So very basic. It's very basic. It's not very complicated to do, and give as much as value up front, which I feel like you're limiting them. The app is clean. The app is nice. It has done some things really well. Empty states, You could also use a lot of personalization in there and make it much more useful for people. That's what my recommendation is. So I have one question for you. As you signed up for Engage, that was, I think, our first onboarding teardown.
Yep.
And then now you signed up for Piktochart. If you have to pick either of them, which one would you pick in terms of onboarding and sign up flow, not as a tool?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I guess I look through so many onboarding experiences in my day-to-day, I forgot what Venngage looked like. So that probably wouldn't be a good answer.
Yeah, so from my side, sorry, Agatha, I like you too. Like, I know what you're doing there. I know it's going to get there, but I think I would choose Venngage because they have much more thought in terms of onboarding, personalization, showing me some tooltips and product bumpers out there. So I think it would be useful. I do go to Venngage all the time because of the infographics. So that would be my recommendation. And then it's a clear reason why. I think it needs a bit more love than it should be. That's from my side. And that's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And if you want to listen to more of these, make sure to subscribe below. Have an amazing day.